What up? Alright, here we go.
What's going on? Came in way too hot. Way too hot.
Tell me you're okay.
Ooh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Just Another Failure podcast with myself, Devin, my buddy Matt over here.
What's going on?
And we have another special guest on the show with us today. We have a professional road cyclist, and she's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, she's a pretty big
She's
deal.
a pretty big deal. She's a two-time UCI World Time Trial Champion, a six-time national champion, and a two-time U.S. Olympian. So, welcome to the show, Amber Neben.
Thanks,
Neben.
guys. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we can't wait to interview you. And like Devin said, she's got a really tremendous background in women's cycling. And then she also runs a very cool ministry and foundation called Dare to Be with kids that have disabilities and are missing limbs. And so we are just going to kind of dive in and talk to Amber about her life in cycling, and then
We're going to cover it all.
everything.
We're covering it all.
Yeah, thanks for making time and coming up and hanging out with us, Amber.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Yeah.
You're the first guest in the new studio
I know
as well.
it's awesome in here. It looks amazing.
Thank
you guys
you.
are all
We have-
branded out too.
Yeah,
we try.
That's good.
We're trying to feel official in here
I
now.
know.
It kind of feels like home now.
I kind of feel official being here.
A little-
Like I'm on a real show right now.
We have a bulldog in the background. This is a shout out to our friends at London Boat Rentals for letting us use this extra space that they have.
Yep.
And then we have AC. If you would have came on like a week ago, you would have been in my very, very hot garage. That was more or less of a sauna. So now we have climate control and we can wear normal clothes when we podcast.
Feels nice. Feels
Perfect.
very nice.
So Amber, starting off, are you from Southern California, or what's your background? Where are you born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised in Southern California, actually around Orange, Anaheim area.
Okay.
Grew up locally, spent 4 years in Nebraska at the University of Nebraska, then came back to UC Irvine for graduate school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very nice.
That's awesome. So did you grow up cycling and liking to cycle, or what?
Yeah,
what-
it's funny you
How
ask.
did you get into cycling? Because I remember you were talking about you did a little mountain biking there,
Yeah.
which is more of our background.
It's funny. I just wrote an introduction for this base camp program I'm in, and I actually went all the way back to my big wheel. So I started on a big wheel.
Yeah.
And then I remember rolling out the driveway down the hill following my dad, and it was like going faster and faster and faster. And then the speed wobbles happened, and then I rolled my big wheel.
Yes.
So that's where it all started. I was hooked, jumped on a BMX bike, and actually rode a bunch with the local neighborhood kids. In between that and the mountain bike, there was soccer playing, distance running, football, you name the sport, I played it. And I got into cycling in graduate school. I had given up running. I had battled stress fractures through high school, through my time at Nebraska as a distance runner, and just got to the point where it was like my body just kept breaking. So I had to surrender that and got into graduate school, was on track for a PhD, just to be a lab rat and a lab researcher for the rest of my life. Discovered mountain bike racing, and then from there it was a quick switch to just pursue a lifelong dream to be an athlete.
Yeah. That's amazing. Did you like the mountain bike style of things, or how did you feel about like when you're doing mountain bike racing?
Yeah, it was funny. My first races were like, I didn't have any of the right equipment. I just t-shirt, my old running tights, running shoes, and then just went out on this mountain bike that I bought because I found out you could race mountain bikes. I hadn't even gone out on any real training rides. I just went and raced.
Send it. I
I did. And I
love-
did. I sended it. Like Superman launched over this ravine that I just T-boned into. It's like I needed to learn to pick my front wheel up, right? So I just hit this and just launched probably about 20 feet in the air, skidded, belly, and landed right in front of some dude in a lawn chair who happened to be out in the middle of nowhere and just helped me up. And anyway, finished, won the race, and just seriously
crashed and still won?
Yeah, I just had this amazing engine.
All right.
This engine, and so because cycling was an endurance sport, like I was good at it. So regardless of not having any skills.
I love it. Wow,
That's- And
Although-
not many people just yard sale and then
Well,
get up and
exactly.
still continue to win. That's actually pretty impressive.
That's not bad. Oh man, what a way to get into cycling and just joining
Yeah.
the cycling world. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, so when did you officially turn pro road cyclist?
Yeah, so I actually turned pro mountain bike first
Okay.
in 2000. So 2000, the beginning of 2001, raced pro mountain bikes, and then actually was invited to do a really big race in Idaho, which was a big UCI race, 2-week race in Idaho. Won a stage there. I was an unknown, won a stage, which put me on the world championship team on the road. And from that point forward, I was a professional road racer. So that would have been basically since 2002, I've been full-time racing road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. So you basically, I mean, like you said, you won a stage for a lot of people that might be listening.
Oh, yeah.
Road cycling a lot of times has different stages where, I mean, I guess you could say like Tour de France style,
Yeah.
right? It's the same concept where, you know, there's a mountain stage, there's
Mm-hmm.
different stages and different categories for different riders as well.
Right.
So-
No, that's a perfect way to explain it.
So what would you say is your aspect of riding? Are you the mountain person? You the time trial? Obviously, you have two of those. So are you just strictly time trial, or what do you do?
Well, for a long time, I was a stage racer. So I was a really good GC rider. So those multi-day races, being able to race many days in a row. And I'm more built like a climber. So I've always been a really good climber. Time trialing was a natural fit with the climbing. These last probably 4 or 5 years, I've been really focused on time trialing more than climbing. But I can also hold my own on a climb when I get in the mix.
Okay.
Nice.
Man, that's awesome. Now, time trialing, that's more your kind of real aerodynamic
Yes.
suit, your very aerodynamic helmet,
Yeah.
and you're going for speed. And, okay. Now, how
Yeah,
long are those?
it's like Formula One
Okay.
on the bike.
Yeah.
Just
now, are you,
all out as fast as you can go.
now, are you guys riding in a Peloton and stuff during those, or are you just more wide open kind of going against?
The time trial is just a race against the clock. So
Okay.
it's just you
Okay.
against basically, yourself. No drafting. No, it's pure strength.
You kind of
out
have
there.
intervals in between each person, right?
Yeah, you'll have probably anywhere from 30-second to 2-minute, depending on.
So it's almost like a mountain bike race as well.
Sort of, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that interval in between
Uh-huh.
each rider.
Yeah,
Okay, and then you just try and
you just go
as
full
fast as
gas,
you can,
right,
yeah.
for that amount of
And
time.
and I mean, it probably varies as well, but what's your normal length for like a time trial?
Yeah, they probably at the the World Championships are typically around 40 minutes, between 35 and 45 minutes long, and distance sort of depends on terrain.
Right.
For this last one, the World Championship I won in Doha, Qatar, was completely flat, and the average speed was close to 30 miles an hour. So
Just
What time of year
ripping.
was that in Qatar? Because Qatar is like not a cold place in this.
it was hot. It was like 106 degrees. It was.
Oh,
If you guys don't know
brutal.
where Qatar is, it's basically on the peninsula in the Gulf next to Dubai and the UAE right there. So you can imagine Middle East. This is probably summertime-ish, spring.
Mm-hmm. It was September. So,
Yeah,
but
so
still super hot.
They're just coming out of 130 degree to a comfortable 106
just riding in the
degree.
middle of the desert.
It was crazy. It was actually a really cool experience.
Now, have you done a lot of stuff in the Middle East, or is Qatar kind of your only place, or have you been other countries in the Middle East recently?
No, Qatar is the only place I've
Okay.
raced. They actually do some cycling in the UAE
Yeah.
and Saudi Arabia. Now in Israel too, they've had a little bit of riding.
I've noticed that. That would be cool to ride through Israel and do.
I would actually love to do that. I
would-
think that would be pretty cool.
I mean, your faith and your background
Yeah,
to be able to
absolutely.
go ride through the promised land. That would be a cool time.
Yeah.
Was being a woman in the Middle East anything hard for you at all? Was anything weird about being a woman in Qatar? Because it's a very prominent country.
Yeah,
where-
when I went, I wasn't sure what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I wanted to be super respectful of the culture, but
Absolutely.
I was really surprised at how welcoming the country was to Westerners, and in fact, there was actually a lot of expats in Qatar.
Qatar and
So
the
you-
UAE has a lot
Yeah,
of expats.
yeah, it was so interesting. You'd walk into the mall and half the people were like full Middle East dress, full from head to toe covered.
Yeah.
And then people in shorts and t-shirts, and they just mix together really well.
Yeah, I've traveled through Qatar and UAE, and the culture is actually a very welcoming culture.
Mm-hmm.
They're very nice, and it's always funny. I always laugh. Like you go to Dubai and there's they have like every restaurant that you have in America. So you have like Cheesecake Factory and Texas Roadhouse and stuff. And I always laugh like being at a Texas Roadhouse in Dubai and they're like just grilling up like huge steaks and stuff. Like this doesn't make sense here.
Like,
But
not what I expected.
Maybe they have the cows.
yeah, right. They ship the meat in.
Yeah.
So from what I heard, I don't know if someone wants to fact check me here. I'm sure there's someone out there, but they supposedly fly the meat in from Texas, and that's where they grill your meat.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not out of the question because obviously there's a little bit of money there, so it doesn't sound out of the question. But so you won your first world time trial championship in 2008, and then you did it again in 2016. I mean, how did that feel? You're the best in the world. How was that?
Yeah, that's incredible. It's really hard to put into words, to be able to stand on the podium, hear the national anthem play, and just know that you are the best on that day. It's super special. When I won it the first time in 2008, it was a culmination of such a crazy journey from, runner to cyclist and all the adversity that I'd faced up to that point, all the people that had helped me along the way. So, and then I did it, and I don't think anyone was really expecting me to do it. So it was just, tears and every emotion you could, possibly think of happened. And then when I won again in 2016, that was after I had a really bad crash, and not that I haven't had many bad crashes, but there was one really bad one in 2013. And I came back from that and I was over 40. I was 41 years old. And so that was just, there were a handful of people that still believed I could do it, and to go out and do it. And that was more of a faith journey and just really trusting the Lord in the process and just being in a place of really feeling his strength come through. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was such an incredible moment. Again, it's special. It's until you've done it, it's so hard to put into words because it's just like,
it has to be like an overwhelming joy
Yeah.
too. Like when you're on that spot and you're on that podium and like you just took the world title.
Exactly.
Like,
I know.
That's what I mean. Like you're
I don't even
on
know-
top of the world. Literally,
Yeah.
you are the best. So.
Yeah. And once you're a world champion, you're always a world champion, Same with being an Olympian. So it is a special recognition too that stays with you for the rest of your life and career.
Now,
Right.
being an Olympian, that's like, I've had buddies that were like on the Olympic rowing team, and I've known a couple friends that have gone to the Olympics, and like to represent your country and to be in another country representing the United States of America, like that's like do you ever feel pressure from that, or is it just like more of an overwhelming joy, or what's it feel like that you're that person representing the United States of America? What's it kind of feel like?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to put on the stars and stripes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being an Olympian too, it's just like, in cycling that in 2008 there were 3 spots. In 2012 when I was there were 4 spots. So you're one of 4 representing the U.S. in this sport. And the Olympics is the one thing that transcends everybody. People might have no idea what cycling is, no idea, but they know what the Olympics are, right? So to know that you're wearing the U.S. jersey in the Olympics is pretty special, and you are representing a nation. And so I've never really felt the weight of it, just more the honor of it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I always think it's funny. I think the Olympics is like such an awesome way to expose people to a lot of sports because, like you said, there's probably people that don't follow cycling, but when the Olympics is on TV, and whether you're at a restaurant or at a bar or at your house, you're watching the Olympics.
You're put on a world stage.
Yeah, you're put on a world stage, and like I know nothing about like what's the ice block one? Shuffleboard? No,
curling.
Curling, yeah.
I know nothing about curling, but you play curling during the Olympics. You find me
You're
like,
like-
oh, you got this. Come on, buddy. You
Oh, you're
got
like,
this.
USA, let's go!
Exactly.
You have no
Push
idea
that
what's
puck,
even going
push
on.
that-
Why are
sweep
they
that
bumping
ice.
into each other? I don't even get it, but let's go! You're just rooting for your guys from the U.S. no matter what.
Such a cool way to expose your sport too, because someone might not have anything to do with cycling, but they see you on a bike out there, and they're like, "Come on, Amber! Come on, America! Let's go! You got this!"
Yeah.
That has to be such a really cool feeling to just think that that's going on back at home, supporting you.
No, it's super cool. And even, the competition in 2012 in London, it was crazy. There were 500,000 people that lined the course. And so just that energy, whether it's far away from home that you're kind of sensing, or just the actual energy that's in the crowd that follows you around, it's unbelievable.
Can you feel it on the bike? Like I had the opportunity when I was a kid to play at the Sharks Arena in between periods when they bring kids up. And like I'm in front of 14,000 fans, and you could hear it. And I remember before I went on the ice, like we met people in the stands. So there's people cheering for us at certain points, but you could feel it when you're on the ice. Like, is it the same on the road? Like, people lining the road and stuff? Can you feel your fans, like, cheering for you out there?
When you're in a race where there are fans, yes.
Yeah.
Let me qualify that.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the Olympics, for sure, it was like real energy that followed you around. And
so cool.
You couldn't, in the road race, you could not hear yourself breathing at times. You couldn't hear anything. It was a push, and I think it raised everybody's level, just the adrenaline and everything involved with that.
I've always known, like, when I'm doing sports, whether it's running or, on a bike or something like that, I try to flip a switch inside my head, like, even if I'm out there by myself, that I'm competing against something that, like, people are watching me. And, like, it always turns that switch on to, like, push yourself a little harder, push yourself a little farther, like, I can only imagine with, like, the real fans, like, sitting there cheering you. You're, like, it might block out, like, pains that you might be going through. You're just like, I'm in the moment right now.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be able to channel that is pretty special.
So cool.
They could put that in a bottle and sell it. That'd be something,
That'd
right?
be crazy. Yeah. You're on your local bike path, and these dudes in flip-flops are just going for it.
Just ripping past you. You're like, okay.
I want some of that.
Yeah, whatever they're having, right? Yeah.
So let's actually talk about, like you were saying, in 2013, you had a pretty crazy crash, and you ended up dislocating your shoulder. You broke your hip and cracked a couple ribs, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So in that one, the shoulder was in a different one.
Okay.
I shattered my iliac crest, which is my hip.
Right.
And then a couple of ribs and a little crack on my nose too.
Yeah.
So basically, I was descending a mountain road on my time trial bike. I had pre-ridden the course. I had watched it on video, and I thought I had it dialed in my mind, and I thought I was at the last corner and was going to exit onto a straight road. And so I had full gas. Speed was to enter onto a straight road, and I didn't take a line to take one more right turn. And sure enough, there was one more right turn, and it was basically there was a side of a mountain wall that I tried to scrub some speed, but it ended up just slamming sideways into it.
Yeah, I watched the video, and it was crazy because, I mean, like you're saying, it kind of looked like you got it back under control, but there was literally a little rock that was pointing out the side of the hill. There was a point, and your hip just slammed right into it.
Yeah.
Now, this is the crash that inspired you to write a book?
Exactly.
When schmuck happens.
When schmack happens.
Schmack happens.
Schmack happens.
Schmack happens.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So it was not the first schmack. So
Okay.
before that, I had actually a 2-year period where I had 3 surgeries in 14 months. Plate in my hand, plate in my collarbone, skin graft on my finger. Oof. So it was, and then that happened. And so it was just, for me, it was like, wow, I think people think of these championship moments as these moments on the podium, but we have championship moments when we're actually in trauma centers and when we are scarred up and facing really hard things. And it's coming through those times that we really develop our championship intangibles. And so, yeah, I mean, when I wrote When Schmack Happens, it was this idea of adversity is not if, it's when. And when it happens, how are you going to get through it? And regardless of who you are, you're going to have adversity. It's going to be unique to you. Your own situation and the intensity of it is going to be unique to you. But how you get through it, those tools you need, that's common to all of us. And so to be able to share about my story through my schmacks and how I got through my schmacks, I was hoping to really present a way for people to have some tools to overcome their own.
I think I love what you just said there. Like, we're going to face adversity in life. It's going to come. It's not when. It's, it's not how or when. It's just what time is going to happen, And I think that's where we started this podcast with the name Just Another Failure.
I was just going
Podcast.
to say,
exactly.
literally what you just said pretty much embodies the whole concept behind what we are, where it's, I mean,
and, like, that's my vision for, like, people to have a source. I mean, there's other people out there that do what we do, but people can tune into our podcast and be like, hey, look at this person. Like, I know when I tune into their podcast, I'm going to hear a story about some sort of adversity or some point. It might not be the whole podcast, but there's going to be a point in this series that we're going to hear, like, when they got kicked down, how did they rise from it? Why did they not quit? What was that factor that just said, like, hey, I don't care how hard it is right now. I don't care how bad I'm beat up, but I need to keep going. And I love that. Like, that's what your story is. Like,
it's my story. That's totally my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was excited to come in.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think you and Devin could probably just compare battle wounds. I mean, this kid's had quite a few.
I went through a little, I went through like a 2-year process of the same thing. I
He's the only kid I know that can land on his feet and break both of
I
his wrists.
well, so that was that's two different things. But I went through 2 years. I had full reconstructive knee surgery,
Oh my gosh.
and then in between that, this is actually another point that I was going to bring up because I read that when you were 4, you got meningitis as well.
Right.
So in between me having a knee surgery, recovering from that, I also got meningitis, and then almost a year to the day after knee surgery, I broke my femur.
Right.
So, but I did want to talk to you about the meningitis thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you were 4?
I was 4. Yeah, I was really sick. I was in a coma for 3 days, and the doctors initially told my parents I was going to die. Then they came back and said if I survived, I would be brain damaged and deaf. So, yeah, I think truly a miracle in the sense that I came through it and no repercussions.
And, I mean, so, yeah, what was it, bacterial, do you know?
Yeah, it was spinal meningitis.
Yeah, so I had the same thing. I had bacterial spinal meningitis as well, and still to this day, I will say, like, I broke my femur, I've done my knee, I've done all this. I've never gone through a pain like meningitis because the lining of your brain swells. So that's where you get the brain damage, the deaf, or lose loss of hearing. All sorts of crazy stuff can happen from that, and it's really, really scary. So to hear that you went through that too it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember too much of it. I do remember waking up from the coma, but I don't remember feeling any pain. I remember being really sick, and then the next thing I remember is waking up.
Yeah, that was an absolutely wild time for me anyways, because I don't know, that was
6 years?
Yeah, pretty recently. I mean, not too long ago, but it was absolutely wild going through that. And same thing, I mean, there was a point where it could have gone one of 2 ways, and I mean, thankful for me, I came out of it with nothing as well. So we got very, very lucky.
He was supposed to be the best man at our buddy's wedding in Hawaii and flew to Hawaii and caught meningitis in Hawaii and was in a Hawaiian hospital. And they almost quarantined like the entire airplane.
Yeah, we almost had like the media was going to like come over. Like it got way out of hand for a minute.
He flew to Hawaii and got spinal meningitis on the airplane.
It was wild. I didn't even get to be in the wedding. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
He was supposed to be the best man in the wedding.
Minor detail.
Yeah. So, but no, that I saw that you went through that as well. So I was like, wow, that's absolutely crazy to talk to somebody else that went through it. But you came out on the other side perfectly fine, which, thankfully you got nothing from that.
I mean, I think I did. People might argue, but
people say that to me too. But we'll let that go.
You're okay. You're totally fine, huh?
Yeah.
That's news to me. Whatever.
So let's talk about your project that you have, the Dare to Be project, which is it a foundation? Is that?
Yeah, it's a 501c3 nonprofit. We're really small, so we're not, really big. Or it's just my husband and I. But yeah, we're officially a 501c3.
Well, that's cool. But I mean, it's you're inspiring and helping to equip physically challenged youth. Get them back on a bike and make them, like you're saying, dare to dream and follow their dreams.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun project. Essentially, I understand how hard life can be. Obviously, these kids with the physical challenges have a whole different, experience with hard than my hard. Yeah. But understanding that, they're going to need to persevere. They're gonna need help and encouragement. And at the same time, they can still do a lot of things. And so the goal is really to help them figure out what they can do. And I think the bike is a really cool way to show them what they can still do. It just looks different. And then once they figure that out, of course, encouraging them to continue to persevere and to dream, and to understand that, they do have a physical challenge, but they're still very gifted. They're uniquely gifted. They'll have unique passions. God's written a story for their life, and it has a purpose for them. And to be able to really encourage them to dream and to go after what it is that's on their heart is part of it. And we use the bike to really just start that process.
Now, where did you come up with the name Dare to Be? Like, what was there like a turning point in your life, or like a race, or like 'Cause, like sometimes you're sitting there late at night and you can't sleep, so you're just writing stuff down. Like, was it a late night idea, or what was the kind of the meaning behind it? Where did you come up with it?
Yeah, it was after 2008. 2008 was the year I won the world championship. I'd been to the Olympic Games, and it was kind of like, so what? All that stuff is so quickly forgotten. So I just wanted to do something. And essentially it was, okay, what can I do? So that idea of start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I had a story and I understood bikes. And so it was kind of like, let's put these things together. And then within my story and within my life, this idea of having a dream and chasing a dream. So I dreamed of being an Olympian when I was 10 years old. It took 23 years to make the team the first time. So there was a ton of persevering and obstacles in the way. But that whole, just to dare to dream it and to dare to do it, I thought would be pretty cool to be able to encourage people. And we actually started helping kids in underserved areas, low-income schools, homeless shelters, and eventually shifted over to helping the physically challenged kids. We still do some of the other stuff, but we don't talk about it as much. But yeah, that idea of daring to be it was really just came out organically from my own pursuit of my own dreams, just wanting to encourage others to do the same thing.
No, absolutely. That's awesome. Now, did you have a family member, a family friend, or anything that kind of physically challenged that like was your first person that you're like, hey, I could help this person, I could do something for this, or what kind of transitioned into that?
Yeah, that's also a good question. Yeah. So when I was racing, or when I do race the Redlands Classic, which is in just Redlands, California, one of the national calendar races on our series, they actually run a para-cycling race parallel to ours. And so for all these years, I had done the Redlands race, and I had watched these guys on these hand cycles, these vets, these guys who had been through all kinds of crazy things, racing their bikes, however they dicked them out, whatever they could do, they made a bike and they were racing these. And to me, that was so inspirational that they hadn't given up on life. I was like, man, like, I'm not ever going to complain about anything. You see these guys with no legs, or they can't walk, or whatever it is, and they're out here competing on a bike, and I thought that was awesome. And then I thought, you know what? There's got to be kids in the same situation with physical disabilities or challenges, and how cool would it be to really inspire them just to get out? Number one, just to be a kid, because when you're on a bike, the physical challenge goes away, and they can be fast, and they can just be a kid.
They forget about their problems.
Exactly.
It lets them kind of escape.
Yeah. And then that idea of being able to use the bike to show them what they can do, just like these guys were showing me what they could do.
Yeah, that's funny. Like, before COVID, like, I've been blessed to be all around the world as a pilot. I was a corporate pilot. That was my dream. And I flew to 86 different countries around the world. I've been on pretty much every continent there is to be out there. And I lived in the Eastern Caribbean when I was younger, and I was in high school. My dad was working at a medical school. But something that I've always really enjoyed is like when I'm in these other countries and you see people using what they have at hand to make something possible. Yeah. And it's like today, it's been a tough year, and I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast, and there's weeks that are very, very hard for me. Sometimes just being able to do the podcast is an escape for me, just to get my brain off of everything else not working in life. But I was talking to a guy today from a Bible study that I'm a part of, and I was like, the problems we face in America are often just so small and so minuscule compared to like just a lot of other stuff that's just going on in life. And you see these people in other countries like Africa or like in South America, and they're just putting together trash more or less, and they're making something happen. And you're like, well, look what I have, in America. Like, look how blessed that like I truly am. And even like on my poorest, hardest day or whatever, my worst day in America, like I'm still very blessed and very privileged to even have the opportunities to what I have. So I remember we were in the Caribbean one time, and my little sister, she was in the 8th grade. I was a senior in high school, and I had to be homeschooled, and she went to like a charter school.
Yeah.
And we were the only white kids on the entire island. And my sister's blonde hair, blue eyes, like people flocked to her. Like you'd have tribal kids just flocking to her. But she went and ran a track meet, and like the kids didn't even have shoes, and they're out there just flying, running track. And it's like, what's my excuse? Like if people could do life like this, like what's my excuse for not being able to go do something? So like I love that aspect where you saw something, you're like I have so much I could offer, like I could help someone in the same. That's pretty cool, like I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. These kids inspire me. Like the most recent little girl we've helped, she only has one leg, and it's like she's using her prosthetic, and trying to ride a bike with it. Our friend Joe has helped us build some really cool training wheels for
Joe
her.
Magliotto. What's
Yeah.
up, buddy?
Shout out to Joe.
We're both buddies with Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so it's cool. They have this attitude of, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to find a way. And again, it's really, the way I say it is, do you find opportunity in the difficulty, or do you see the difficulty in the opportunity? And it's
like
these
that analogy.
kids that just are constantly finding opportunity in their difficulty. And to me, it's just like the world needs to see that, because it's so cool.
And just being able to see a smile be put on these kids' face from being able to, do something as simple as ride a bike, which we take for granted, like you're saying, because, it's just something that's easy for us where these kids don't have that opportunity. And for them to be able to do that now and just have the biggest grins on their face has to be one of the coolest feelings.
Yeah, the smiles are real.
Yeah.
They're so real.
Just
and
pure
it's just,
joy.
It's like, oh my gosh, I just want to be like that again.
I know that girl was so cute, when she made that video for Joe when he was building the bike. Like, it's just like working in the shop with Joe, like, it inspires us to like even build the project, and help you build the project.
Yeah.
It's something on our end where most people would walk in the shop and they would look at it and be like, "What? I don't get it. Like, why do you need a bike like that?" But then you tell them the story and they're like, "Wow, that's actually like really, really cool and unique." And
no, and the other side of it that's really cool is a guy like Joe who's taking his talents, and what he's good at, and being able to serve the community in a really cool way. So it kind of brings everybody together too.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like you said, it's just you're changing the lens on someone's perspective on how they're viewing their life and finding strength in their difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I think that's a really noble thing that you're really pushing out there. Now, has it been growing or?
We've been pretty quiet the last year with COVID and just with the Olympic pursuit. We were running a series of races for them. And then, with COVID and just life changes and everything was a little bit crazy. So we've just shifted back more to helping people behind the scenes, get set up on bikes, find what they need, that sort of thing. So, yeah, we're always looking for kids to help. I actually just, SC Prosthetics, talked to them, their organization. So we're going to help another little girl in the next week or two. Cool. So excited about that, and excited about the prospects of working with them too, because they're feet on the ground, as far as seeing the kids and seeing potential people we could help. So that's a big deal for us.
I love it. That's awesome. So cool.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And so everybody, make sure you go check out Dare.
The Dare to Be project.
The Dare to Be project.
I think on Instagram you're it's at Dare to Be, correct?
Yeah, I think it's either at the Dare to Be project or at Dare to Be project.
Yeah, at the Dare to Be project on Instagram.
Yeah.
Give it a follow, give it a check out, because like you said, it's inspiring.
And if you want to put a smile on your face, just go look at those kids smiling on there, because it will instantly put a smile on
now,
your
do
face.
you allow people to come help?
We do.
Okay.
Right now, obviously, it's kind of hard to do that, and there's not a lot people can help with. But when we do organize the rides, we need people to come out and help. So
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun because it gets them hands-on too, and then you see it. And honestly, we think we're blessing the kids, but the kids are totally making a world of difference in our lives. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. That's amazing. Yeah. Very cool. What do you got?
No, I was just going to ask, going back to more of your cycling stuff now, when it becomes a job, is it tough to kind of have, where in the beginning riding a bike is, that's fun for you. Mm-hmm. You go ride a mountain, or whether you're riding the road, that's like kind of an escape for some people. But when it becomes a job, is it the mental grind of, training for stuff, having to produce results? Does it become tough, or do you still absolutely just enjoy being on your bike?
I think both. And I would say for me, I've actually tried not to make it a job. I've seen it more as a calling, in the sense of, it's my purpose. I think God, he knit me together. He put my DNA together. He put me in the environment. He built me as an athlete. And then this opportunity to be on the bike has just been, so real to me. So it's just been more of like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm in this process with him, and it's been pretty challenging. I've faced a ton of adversity, and so there's so many hard days. It's very rare that you're on the podium, and very rare that you have the mountaintops. A lot of hard days, a lot of just what I say, just doing today's, the mundane. And yeah, there are times when it has felt like a job, and I think that's probably more when I've lost my focus on why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so when I've lost my why, then it's become a job. When I remember to reset on, my purpose and my calling, my true focus of being in the sport, then it's this amazing process and this amazing journey. So yeah, I mean, obviously the crashes and the surgeries and the consequences of crashing start to catch up with you. And right. The last thing you want to do is take the same risks you did, in the beginning of your career, because it isn't a job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably the most challenging part.
Do you still look forward pretty much every day to getting up and going to ride your bike?
Yes, I think so. Do
you have days it's hard to motivate?
Yeah, there's some days where it's hard. Yeah. When I'm in this training process, I mean, there are days when you feel really good and you get into training cycles where you feel really good. But as you get closer and closer to the event and you have to start doing harder and harder work, the intensity ramps up and the fatigue starts to build. You really have to, I've been doing it for so long, I'm kind of used to how I feel. But yeah, there are days when it's just like, man, I know I got to go out and do 5 by 5 minutes as hard as I can, basically turn myself inside out on the bike. And I'm tired, and those are the days I try to just do the next step. Yeah. I try to just stay in the moment, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to think about the workout or the intervals itself. I'm going to go through the process of the steps that I need to get there, and I focus on those steps. So it's like, okay, in the morning, you have your breakfast, do my Bible study, get my mobility and my stretching and my warm-up and my, muscle activation. Okay, get dressed, get out on the bike, go through the warm-up process on the bike, and pretty soon I'm at the place where I have to do the hard efforts, and then it's like, okay, I can do one. Right? I can do one. Right. I get, you know what? I know I can do one. I don't want to go home. I'm going to do one. Yeah. I can do another one. And then pretty soon I'm done with my workout, and surprisingly, a lot of times, even though I might feel terrible, I actually have a pretty good workout. So it becomes really more of a mental battle and being willing to step into the challenge and press through it and not be afraid of that. It's like there are those times when you can't trust your feelings. You have to know what's in you. You have to have a plan and a process set forth, and you ignore the feelings and you just do the steps.
Yeah, I was relating to that. It's funny, I have different friends in my life, that military athletes and stuff like that inspire me on a lot of the stuff I do daily. And like Chad Williams, Chad from the church, and former Navy SEAL, very motivational guy. You get any time around Chad, and that guy just pumps you up.
Yeah.
He's awesome. And like I read like how SEALs like kind of interact on like how they train and like when they're in warfare and what their brain's going through and stuff like that. But as far as like bringing it back to me to training, like sometimes you can take bits and pieces of what they say and what they do and how they like put their mental state, because a lot of it's mind over matter a lot of the times, like as crazy as it sounds. But prior to me hurting my knee recently, I was running and I was starting to enjoy running. It was something I hated forever. And then like I went out one day and I was like, I'm gonna do a mile. We did a mile, and then I was like, next day I'm going to do like 1.5 miles, and I did 1.5 miles, and then pretty soon I was getting up to like 5 miles running. And I remember I'd be like at mile 2 or 3, and it'd be like that wall.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, man, this sucks. You're like, but I know I could do 5. And you're just like, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do one more. And then before you know it, like you find yourself just, if you just keep saying one more, like it's only like a couple hundred feet to mile 2. All right, nope, mile 3 is this, I'm going to make it. And before you know it, the workout's over, but you just accomplish something by just simply just keep telling yourself like, I got this. This is fine. Like there's some pain there, but it's not bad. This isn't pain that's going to hurt me long term, But then, yeah, my knee did. I've had some trauma on my knee. So
and
now,
then it did hurt you there.
Yeah, so now, like I was doing like a 7-mile run the other night, and I was like 4 miles into my knee, was just like, yeah, I'm checking out. Like we're leaving your body right now. And I was like, oh, and I was like, I think I might have hurt it a little more because I was stubborn. I probably should have called my sister to come pick me up. And I was like, I'm just gonna walk this off and walk it home. And I was like walking home and like limping back down the beach. I was like, and I'd be like, I should just try to run. It's fine. I'd be like, nope, can't run.
Yeah.
I can't run right now. So, then you learn a lot through like maybe you pushed it too hard and stuff like that. And then you're like, okay, there's my limit. I know I have to train to this point. And then how do you slowly train through that point in recovery? So the whole mental game is obviously huge as far as like just accomplishing different trials.
Absolutely. And that's true it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're running, cycling, a Navy SEAL, a teacher, some parent trying to homeschool their kids, flipping burgers, whatever it is. I mean, like the mental component of life. I mean, I call it PX4. So my championship intangibles, my ingredients, perseverance, patience, perspective, power, and I think those are the championship intangible ingredients you need no matter what you do in life. And then, for you in your situation, obviously you learned a lesson, and it's like my best lessons have come from my biggest failures. Now, learning to listen to your body is one thing. I broke myself plenty of times, and now it's like, how do you become a wise person? You make bad decisions, and you're willing to learn, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's all part of that's all part of the process and the wisdom and the experience, in addition to growing your championship intangibles by like actually trying to do something hard and not being afraid to get out there and to fail, to be honest.
And that's actually perfect we like to ask, obviously the name being just another failure.
Yeah.
We like to ask people, what is your biggest failure that you've gone through and then, you've been able to overcome. And I mean, we like to laugh about our failures because like you're saying, you learn from failing. So we like to ask everyone that's on the show, what is your biggest failure that you've been able to overcome? And now you can kind of laugh about it now.
Oh, wow. Failures.
Where do you start?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of times where you've just done stupid things in workouts. I mean, obviously my crashes are bad fails, the ones all like that Tour California one we were talking about. I mean, I was in total control. That was completely my fault. There was nobody else around me, right? So that's probably the biggest fail. And having to come back from that was I remember being on the side of the road and then in the ambulance on the way to the trauma center, and it was like I called my husband and he's like, don't make a decision. Don't tell me you're done. Don't make a decision right now. And this is not the moment to make a decision. And then it was just like, okay. Yeah, I mean, you really have to be willing to pick yourself up, learn from the mistake you made, start from scratch. A lot of times you got to start from scratch. I had to completely start from scratch, and that's hard. And just the time and the energy and the emotional energy and everything.
The rehabilitation.
Everything that comes with it. But aside from the physical, I think it's the emotional side that's the hardest part, because where you've been, where you want to go, and you know how far it is, and you're just like, can I do this again?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's that always in the back of your mind as an athlete. Anytime you get hurt, it's like, you know what it took to get there.
Totally.
It's like, and you're like, am I going to be as strong as I'm going to be as good, or my bone's going to work just as good, or my muscle's going to work just as good? Now, like when you crashed and you hit the mountain, you were going, what, 30 miles an hour?
Yeah, 35 miles an hour.
So you had a lot of adrenaline going through your system at this point, and I know, like, I broke myself off hard wakeboarding and snowboarding, like where I'm moving when I shouldn't be moving when I broke stuff, because I had so much adrenaline. My body's going into fight or flight. Like, did you get knocked out in that, or do you remember like trying to pop back up right away, or did you know you broke something off? Like,
I knew. Okay. I think I was the most calm one on the scene, to be honest with you. I had like the guys in my follow car came running out and wanted to grab me and pull me to the side of the road, and I swear I could feel internal bleeding.
Yeah.
And I just was like, just wait till the doctor gets here, because what I was really afraid was they were going to move me and I was going to pass out or just be out. And I was like, there has to be somebody medically equipped here before I let you move me and put me in that state. So just calm down.
Let's take this for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. And I was in extreme pain when they had to move me out of the road, because there were still racers coming down. So I did have to get out of the way. But yeah, it was pretty intense. And I do remember, I remember my head bouncing off the ground. That was, I think, when I woke back up. I don't remember like hitting the wall. That point from the wall to my head bouncing on the ground, I don't remember. Jeez. But at that point, I was back awake.
Oh, man.
Brutal.
Yeah, concussions are gnarly. I've definitely been knocked out a couple times, and it's funny. Like, it's from like dirt bikes and mountain bikes and all the things I've done. Like, the things that always hurt me the worst was like wakeboarding and snowboarding. Those were the two times that like I was just getting wrecked. And like, I remember one time I was wakeboarding and we had a bunch of like rail setups, and I jumped on a rail that had been rotted out by water that I didn't know. Like, I came through, like, wet the rail down like I normally did.
Yeah.
And I came back and jumped on it. And as soon as I landed, the rail just snapped, and then my head broke the other side of the rail. And, like, I have no recollection of any of it. But, like, my buddy said, like, I just, like, popped right back up. And, like, I was sitting there. And then, like, he saw me, and I was just, like, I was talking to him. And then, like, I would just go back on my back. And then I talked to him, and they pulled me in the boat. but I have no idea, like, remember getting in the boat or anything like that. And then, like, I threw up like 2 or 3 times, but I have no recollection of, like, getting back to the marina, getting in my car, nothing. Like, no idea how I got certain places at all.
I mean, I remember most of mine. Thankfully, I was awake enough to remember. I don't know if that's good or bad. Screaming in ambulances when they're trying to stick a needle this long into my finger that's wide open, whatever it was. It was bad. I don't know that you can laugh about that stuff. It was pretty just hardcore.
I mean, we like to be able to laugh about it.
I know. I'm trying to think of something that's funny.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any funny failure stories.
I mean, during the moment, though, it obviously doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it. But now that you've gone through it, it's like you can kind of laugh about it a little bit.
I can laugh about it for sure.
Yeah. So that's why we like to that's our perspective on most of the stuff that we end up doing, where we'll fail at something, and it sucks during the moment, but once you get past it and you overcome it, then you can be like, oh my, okay.
And there's definitely like certain failures you have in life, like, there's certain things you go through and you're like, yeah, I'd probably go through that again. There's other times you're like, yeah, no, like, I'm glad I learned my lesson. I don't need to go.
Want to do it again.
Yeah, I don't want to do that one again. Let's leave that one away from
hard pass on that one.
Let's make sure we don't repeat this one.
Yeah, I know it.
It's funny. I hear people every now and then, they talk about like just crazy adversity they went through in life, and they're like, you know what? Like, if I had the choice, like, if I had to, I'd do it all over again. I'm like, stronger than me, buddy.
I know. I can say that like my running adversity, all the stress fractures I had, because I think back to being in college. I mean, my identity was running, and I was actually a really good distance runner, and I couldn't run, and so that's hard. 4 years of breaking, working back. I look back at that time, and that was really where the ability to persevere started. And I wouldn't trade that. That was really the time where I started to understand that God's grace was sufficient for me. Like, I didn't need sport. He was enough. There were certain things that I would go through that again, because what came out of it has really, it was honestly the foundation of becoming a world champion in cycling, was those things that grew out of, that time as a distance runner.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. It's incredible, just like get your insight and like how you see like certain points, and then from being a world champion, and like it's not like you woke up one morning and you just went out and won.
They don't grow on trees. World championships do not grow on trees.
There's not a world champion tree out there, huh?
No, there's not.
Now, are you guys, every sport, from motocross to cycling and stuff like that, like, it's become really strict on anything you can take now. Like, you can't have like anything, pretty much. You can't, like, creatine will kind of mess with your system, right?
Yeah, I don't take creatine, so I don't know if it would mess with me. And there's a list, like WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association, has a list. So there's all kinds of substances that you have to be super careful about, and make sure you're not taking. You have to pay attention to, like, the supplements you use, obviously any of the on the bike stuff, just to make sure that you're using from a reputable company, because it can be an issue for sure.
Now, diet, do you have to be really strict with your diet as well? Is that like a pretty hardcore thing, like year round, or only in training season? Or
for me, because I'm older, year round. Okay. I think when I was younger and I was a rubber ball, my metabolism and my body could handle more. Yeah. I ate a lot of sugar. For a lot of years, and a lot of just pure sugar on the bike with gels and sugary solutions. It really wrecked my gut. So now I have the consequences from that. So my diet's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason I've been able to compete as long as I have, I don't know if I should tell your audience my age, but I am 45. So I'm 20 plus years competing at the world championship level. And I think a lot of it has to do with, just taking care of my body, learning to take care of my body with nutrition, good people that have taught me how to care for my soft tissue and mobility and being functional.
Now, if there's any advice that you could give, like, a young upcoming cyclist, male, female, maybe predominantly the female audience, that's where kind of extreme sports would lack. What's something that you could tell them, like, if they're looking at getting into this, if they're looking into getting time trials, if they're just like, they don't know how to start, or they're trying to get that breaking moment, like, what's the best advice, like, kind of what you can tell them to kind of do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, get a bike.
Rule number one.
Nice place to start. Love it.
Assuming you have a bike and you're into cycling or whatever sport it is, get into it and just get out and start trying it. Get into the scene, find people local to you who know what needs to be done, and can help you hands-on. I think obviously if you're really serious about it, finding a coach is super helpful, because the training takes time, physiology and all that change and process. There's no shortcuts. It just takes time, and you got to do the work. So getting that going is important. Not being afraid to fail, and just getting out there and trying and going for it, I think. And then you just sort of figure it out from there.
Now, how often do you have to worry about speed limits on a bike? Have you ever had a
funny. Yeah. Normally, no, but two times. So one time I was motor pacing with my husband, and we were going down a hill, so we were going pretty fast. So motor pacing is, he drives a motor scooter, and I ride behind the motor scooter, and I'm on the bumper. So if you looked at the bumper, you can see tire marks on the bumper. So like I'm on the bumper, within an inch. And we're going downhill into Santiago Canyon, and next thing we know, we hear sirens and we get pulled over. And the guy, he walks up to me. He's like, "You're doing 60 miles an hour in the bike lane." I was like, "I was motor pacing,
60, 60.
60, yeah. We were rolling because it was downhill. And at that point, I could kind of tuck in behind the bike and really spin it out.
How's his scooter doing? Like, is he doing pretty good on this thing?
Big. He's like 200 plus pounds, so he handles it okay. And it was downhill. Now, if it was uphill, I don't know if it could go that fast.
Even the scooter was like, "Slow down."
I know. It was shaking.
I'm more worried about the scooter right now.
It's okay. The other time was, I was actually just before Worlds this year. It was around Labor Day, and the campground down by San Onofre. I was doing some intervals through there, and I understand what I'm doing. I'm a professional, and I was doing an interval probably about 30 miles an hour through the campground, and I think the speed limit's 15. And I was coming back through with the tailwind too, so I was flying, and came by a white truck that wasn't really marked. And the next thing I know, and I did go by him, so it was sort of my fault. But I heard sirens, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna stop me!" And sure enough, he stopped me, and
I'm in the middle of a regiment.
I was in the middle of an interval, number one. So first of all, I was
killing
like,
my time
you're
here.
killing my workout, okay? Can we just wait like another 3 minutes?
Could you have given me a couple more minutes?
He wanted me to
in
stop
this one.
right now. And so I did. I pulled over. And of course, you know what? I just looked at him and I said, I know I was wrong. I did. I said I was wrong.
Just owned it.
I did. I owned it. I was wrong. I was going fast. But can I tell you why?
Yeah.
So then I don't usually drop the Olympian and the world champion card, but I pulled that one out, and then I was like, I have the
pulled
world.
it out of my wallet.
I did. I pulled it out. I was like, and I'm training for the world championships to represent the USA. Let's go back to the USA card.
You're like, "Are you gonna really pull me over right now?"
So
Representing the country here.
this is what I was doing. And actually, he was really cool. And he's like, "Okay, I'll give you a warning. I don't want you riding through there right now. Wait till the campground closes." And I didn't bother to tell him. I actually train down there quite often. And that's the first time I've ever been stopped. But I think it was because it was Labor Day.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit more careful when I go through.
He's like, "My sergeant's in the car right now, so I have to give you a warning here. But
Seriously.
go USA,
Yeah.
let's go."
Yeah, it was funny. I thought it was funny. I was like, I just got pulled over for speeding on my bike.
He was nice
Literally.
enough to get a photo with you.
Well, okay, so when I finished my workout,
Yeah.
I figured he'd still be in the park, so I cooled down back into the park. I actually went looking for him. Number one, I just wanted to make sure, because I had finished my interval, or I was in the middle of my interval, so I was a little fired up.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that like I hadn't been
Rude. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Okay, hey man, I'm sorry if I was yelling at you, because I didn't mean to be yelling at you." He's like, "No, you weren't.
My
I'm like,
earpods were in there. I'm really loud.
I know. I was like, "It's really cool. Like, I appreciate your service and what you're doing. But hey, can you flip your sirens on and can we take a selfie?" He's all, "I will not flip the sirens on, but you can take a picture."
Like, fair enough.
I'm like, "That's good." And
I'll take it.
enough.
I'll take
Well,
it. That's funny.
That's so I actually was gonna ask this too. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to get into it, but what's a day in the life for you training for the Olympics? Like, what kind of goes into an everyday, training regimen for you?
Yeah, that's it sort of depends on the time of the year, because the training is different through the year, but generally speaking, obviously, I hope I have a good night's sleep. Sleep is hugely important. So I'll wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, pull out my Bible, do a little just, devotion time, prayer time, just really try to get my heart centered and my mind focused. Then I'll spend some time. I actually work as a coach too, so I'll spend some time kind of looking through that stuff, and then I'll come back to, okay, what do I have to do on the bike? So I have to really mentally take in what the workout is, process it, and it's not that I work through it and do the whole thing in my head, but I'm absorbing it and thinking about it, and I know what I have to do. Kind of let that soak in a little bit. While that's soaking in, I might be surfing and looking at what happened on ESPN and in the sports world yesterday, or just general news, just kind of mindless stuff. Then it's like, okay, it's time to go. So I have to get my body ready. So I have a mobility routine that I go through, which just helps my body stay functional. And then activation, like glutes get sleepy. So like glute activation and some posterior chain stuff that I'll work on. And then it's out on the ride. And my riding, I'm probably out for 4 to 6 hours on the bike.
Wow.
So it's a long day. I take what I need with me. And then when I get back, then it's a matter of recovery. So it's I make a meal really quick. So a lot of vegetables and lean meat and a good carb source. And then, from that point, it just kind of depends on how hard I worked. If I'm pretty wiped out, there's probably not a lot of mental energy I have left right away. Otherwise, it's kind of back to my coaching world and doing some work with catching up with all that stuff. And then just the post-workout recovery stuff. Maybe I'll do some strength stuff or maybe a light walk in the evening just to let my nervous system unwind. But it's really actually pretty boring, to be honest with you. It's funny when you're an athlete that serious, you don't do a lot. Yeah. You're pretty much focused on your training.
Yeah, that consumes your life. But that's what it takes to be a champion, though.
This regiment, repetitiveness,
Yeah.
and him and I were talking about this the other day. We went out and interviewed one of our buddies that's a former freestyle motocross rider. He's an announcer now, but he's professional freestyle motocross rider, toured all over the world. And these are like guys that him and I, when we were kids, we grew up looking up to these guys. You know, you go out to shows and you see these guys at shows. You're like, that is insane. Like, I can't believe they're throwing these tricks. And then they're some way or some point in time, we became friends with these people and we started riding. Our riding became riding with them. Mm-hmm. And then you see how they work every day and you see how they are so perfect at it. But it's like day in, day out, they do the same thing every single day. And they do it, 20 times a day. And they make sure they do what they're doing perfect. And it's funny, like he was saying the other day, he's like, you never crash in practice. You always crash on the show. Mm-hmm. Like, he's had a lot of injuries, but most of his bad injuries were always in the middle of a show or a contest or something like that. It was never at home while he was practicing. It was always in the moment. Like, your biggest crash that you had was in the middle of a race.
Yeah, all of my biggest crashes have been in the middle of the race.
It's not really in your training time. It's in your race time when you're actually out there going and pushing that level and making sure, like, you go for the best.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what the practice is, to dial in the details, and then hopefully when you get to race day, you can take it up another step. And that's too where, like, if you're going to take a risk, and you have to be willing to risk to win sometimes, it's going to happen in the race. Rarely do you want to take a risk that has that big of a consequence in training. You want to push the edge, so you know where to find it and what it feels like. But as far as like really, really sending it and going for it, that usually happens. You save that for race day.
Yeah.
And mentally, there's a place, like, you can only take yourself to that place so often.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're not all the way in that place mentally in training, you don't necessarily want to try to go there physically unless you're all the way there mentally.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, risk assertive management basically is what you're looking at in these situations.
Yeah.
So, like, how far am I willing to push myself that extra inch today? Mm-hmm. Like, it might be a serious repercussion, but it also might give me that extra motive that I need to take the title today.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Now, your average ride, 4 to 6 hours. How much miles are you covering on this?
Again, it depends on terrain, but I mean, like, a 5-hour ride for me is 100 miles.
Wow.
So, I'm riding between 100 and 120 miles probably, or 80 and 120 miles most days.
She's putting in more miles than most people drive.
You're just pulling centuries every day.
At least twice a week. Yeah.
Twice a week, you're doing 100 plus miles.
Uh-huh. Not right now, but when I'm in season,
And what's your training, like your training speed, like average in this?
Between 19 and 21 miles an hour.
She's like, just ripping, not
Just
a big
ripping.
deal.
Well, it ranges though. It
Just
kind of
fast.
depends on terrain. It's hard
Yeah,
to say that because I might be
Like, if you're
riding
climbing
uphill
or, yeah, you're
10
just-
miles
yeah,
an hour.
yeah.
You know,
She's like, cops pull me over, so
Cops
that
pull
should
me over.
probably
25,
tell
30,
you.
yeah.
Cops don't like how fast I'm going, so that should probably give you an idea.
Now, are you training now, or is that coming up soon?
I'm kind of in a hold mode right
Okay.
now. So I came out of my pure rest period. I'm in a little bit of a hold mode, waiting to be about 30, 32 weeks out from the Olympics.
Okay.
And with obviously what's going on in the world with this COVID thing,
Yeah.
how has that been, where schedules are put on hold, where you're, like you're saying, you're kind of just in a stagnant
Limbo.
mode right now where you don't have anything going?
Yeah, that's been the hardest thing this last year. Certainly, it was one of those years where I felt like, honestly, almost like my previous 20 years of being an athlete prepared me for last year. Just being able to deal with all the unknown and all the uncertainty and all the changing, that be flexible, adapt, overcome mindset. Yeah, so we had tons of races that were on the schedule, off the schedule, and then we didn't know when. Then they were back on the schedule, and then maybe they got canceled. So even the World Championships, we're not 100% sure until about 2 weeks before, and nor did we know where they were going to be. So it was this constant state of being ready, and being in a position to, okay, it's time to go. And then obviously too, being able to train with no racing on the schedule meant, I really had to embrace my why. I think that's why I was able to do it so well, was because I've never, I'm not racing for my own glory. So I have an audience of one in the Lord, and I was able to go out on a daily basis and just use what I had as best I could for that purpose, and then trust that ultimately he knew what he was doing and I'd be ready when the time came. So yeah, certainly, the whole COVID thing for everybody, I think the uncertainty, the unknown, really people being out of control, it's hard for people.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of anxiety, and definitely for athletes, the same thing. So, but yeah, moving forward too is like, we think we're going to have an Olympics, but we don't know for sure.
Right.
We think we're going to have a season in the spring, but again, in the States, we don't know what's going to happen. So, but I have to move forward as if all that's going on, which is hugely mental and internal, and being able to stay focused in spite of all kinds of distractions and any kind of chaos that happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy to have to, stay in a constant state of
readiness.
Yeah, ready to be at that top level, but also in the back of your head, you're like, well, I don't know if it's actually going to happen.
I know.
It's kind of hard to keep that effort going into something when you're like, is it even going to happen? Is it? But
having that drive too.
Yeah,
and being
having
able to
that
understand
mindset,
that cognitive mindset. That's amazing. But that's also like good advice to people that are listening in every other aspect of life, because there's a lot of people that there's no one known with work or other things. So like just always being ready. Like you always got to be ready, even though you have no idea what's going on. Like that you have to have some sort of control in the uncontrollable environment.
Yeah, and even going back to the Dare to Be Project kids, what can you do?
Yeah.
Figure out what you can do and focus on what you can do, while you're waiting for everything else to unfold.
Yeah, that's like no better way to kind of like
right.
kind of bring in like this interview for this time of like, you got to be ready. You got to know what you're able to do and just focus on what you can do and not focus on what you can't. Because if you focus on what you can't, you're going to be in a dark hole and you can't get out of that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
are you guys ever able to try like portable oxygen and stuff like that? Have you ever heard of Boost or anything?
No, that would be really illegal.
Yeah.
I think it would be.
It's just 98% oxygen in here, and as far as I can use on a recreational use, because like when we're out in the mountains, you're just you're winded. But I know like not in a race, but I don't know if in training you can, because I don't think it would ever pop in your system. But
yeah, I don't. You know what? That's actually a really good question.
He makes them in different sizes, but it works for us. I met the guy a couple years ago, and he supplies us with this stuff, and I got to get a couple more because we're kind of running low right now. But I've been out on bike rides out in Santiago and stuff like that, and you're just I like the little personal ones, but like every now and then it's just boost of oxygen. It's pure oxygen is all you're breathing. But I know like definitely in a race probably be illegal.
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up before I used it, but in theory and in science, actually, I should say, yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
That would actually be really beneficial for you.
Really,
Yeah,
really helpful.
It's a cool product, and like he's been on Shark Tank. He's done some pretty cool stuff with it, and he's has some cool athletes using it. But I will say it works. Like there's been times that like I'm getting fatigued and I'm out there and I just need that like extra because like I'm exasperated and everything. It's like hold it in, just take it in. Like, okay, like I'm rejuvenated. I can keep going. So this is a pretty cool product. I just wanted to maybe ask you about. He's been a buddy of ours. He supplies us with the show. And if you've ever heard of Boost, they're out of Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, they're pretty rad. Yeah. And then we have like 2 other sponsors.
Yeah, we have a couple other sponsors.
We got to do an ad read.
No, that's good. Do it.
Yeah.
I get it.
We also have Manscaped. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I can imagine.
She's like looking at you two hairy guys. I can understand that.
So they're a men's grooming company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
it's
I mean,
necessary sometimes.
you can maybe use the promo code, for the husband.
All right.
But they're forever changing the grooming game. They just came out with a new product called the Weed Whacker. And it's the new nose and ear trimmer.
All right.
And it comes with skin-safe technology, so you're never going to have any nicks in those sensitive areas. It's waterproof. It's got a lithium-ion battery. I mean, it's top-notch. It's good stuff. But we also have a promo code. You can use promo code FAIL at checkout on manscaped.com. And with Black Friday coming up, all that fun stuff, Cyber Monday, they're going to have awesome deals going too. So
use FAIL, get you 20% off plus free shipping.
Yep. So head to manscaped.com right now and go get yourself all of Manscaped's wonderful product and use promo code FAIL at checkout for 20% off. And
they got grooming supplies, they got colognes, they got creams, they have everything there.
Everything.
And it works well. And then we have our buddy Sean out of Sun Valley, Idaho with 30 Seconds Out. And he supplies us. You've seen on other episodes. We're still working on setting up the new spot. We usually have some sort of 30 Seconds Out flags or apparel hanging in here at all times. But it's a very motivational brand. He's a former SEAL team guy, a very elite SEAL team member on the squadron. And a lot of his stuff is just very motivational clothing. Like their key phrase is "No one is coming. It's up to us." There's definitely times in our life that we have to rely on our own instinct to get through certain stuff. He does a lot of cool, very pro-military, tactical style clothing. He has flags. We have big flags. We have mini flags, hats, stickers, but just an all-around awesome company. It's veteran-owned. You're supporting veterans. You're supporting a really good cause. And then Cryptech is our other buddies over at Cryptech Camo and another veteran-owned company. And go on, check these guys out, 30secondsout.com, cryptech.com, Boost Oxygen, and manscaped.com, and see what you guys can do.
Yep. And, I mean, Amber, do you have anybody that you'd like to shout out? I mean, obviously we talked about your foundation, so go check out the Dare to Be project.
The Dare to Be project, for sure. Check that out. You can find out information about my coaching at nebenpx4.com, or my Instagram's Amber Neben PX4. I work in a winter 4-month program called Base Camp, and probably by the time this airs, we'll close signups. But, for next year, if you're looking for a 4-month training program just to try out what it's like to coach and train with a group, Base Camp, join basecamp.com. It's pretty cool.
And you guys are out of Southern California?
No, it's actually, it's a virtual community. Okay. So we're all over the U.S., and we have some people all over the world, to be honest with you. The people that have been closest, dearest to me, my coach, Tim Cusick, my husband, Jason, and Lawrence Van Lingen, who's in Laguna Beach. For locals here, he is awesome inner runner with 1 R. If your body, he has put me back together. So, he has untangled me, put me back together, and got me functional. So, big shout out to him.
Yeah, check out Lawrence at Inner Runner, and I recently have been looking at him with my knee injury. My dad also does naturopathic stuff, and it always helps to look at different avenues to kind of heal injuries. And Amber was awesome to turn me on to him as well. So thank you for coming on with that.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and it was
giving
an
us
awesome
some time
interview.
out of your day. And
thanks for.
Hopefully, we'll be rooting for you in 2021.
I hope so.
We're looking forward to doing some more follow-up stories with you.
We're gonna be tuned into the women's cycling now and cheering on the U.S. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks, Amber.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.